Vaccines don't work. The Earth is flat. The moon landing wasn't real because the moon is actually a hologram. No, I'm just kidding. Or am I? In any case, the ideas I just laid out before you are conspiracy theories. Theories about a conspiracy that a group of people is orchestrating against the unwitting public. This group is almost always extremely powerful, such as a massive multinational corporation or the government itself. But when I mention conspiracy theorists, one may most commonly envision someone like this. Some middle-aged, sleep-deprived adults living in their mom's basement with a tinfoil hat on their head that they call their intergalactic space helmet to stop the government from controlling their thoughts. However, this stereotype has been disproven. According to recent polls, at least 50% of Americans believe in at least one conspiracy theory. 28% of Americans believe that a secret, mysterious elite power, such as the Illuminati, is plotting a new world order. 21% of Americans believe that the government is hiding aliens from the public. And 14% of Americans believe in Bigfoot. The first question this leads me to is, why do people believe in conspiracy theories? Well, conspiracy theories are often formed as a way for people to cope with sudden and unsettling events. For example, plane crashes, terrorist attacks, mass shootings, the deaths of prominent and important individuals, and so on. In the face of unexplained occurrences and confused hysteria, people look for psychological relief. They look for answers, for ways to process things, and bring some order to these frightening and unforeseen events. Hardcore conspiracy theories that are less substantiated are adopted by people with an extent of paranoia who believe the government is out to get them and similar beliefs. For example, the conspiracy theory that the medical industry has found the cure to cancer but is keeping it hidden to make a profit off of chemotherapy and other less effective, more expensive cancer treatments. It's sinister, it's sensational, but it's unlikely. More reasonable conspiracy theories rely, as I mentioned, on a need for explanation. For example, UFO sightings, or extraterrestrial encounters, or strange lights in the sky. As humans, we're uncomfortable with admitting when we simply don't know something. So, we'll attribute it to something otherworldly or something supernatural. But all conspiracy theories share a foundation, and this is what I want to focus on. Because the thinking process that goes into constructing and believing these conspiracy theories is really quite remarkable. Let's say you're beginning to think like a conspiracy theorist. How does that process work? Well, in order to accept some of these ideas, you must detach yourself from the conventional way of thinking. So, you begin by viewing mainstream information with skepticism, a distrust for powerful organizations, ones that have more power than the general public, that know more than the general public, that decide what the public need to know because of the hierarchy that comes along with any form of civilization. You begin to think about the amount of power that certain phenomena have in our world. For example, the role that materialism plays in our society. Money, objects, sex, and brands. Egos, and the way people think of themselves. All marketing is based on fear and compulsion to drive people to do things. Our metropolitan lives are filled with billboards and advertisements that make us think we're occupied, but only superficially. Our lives are so fast-paced and so punctuated with pop and celebrity culture, with social obligations, with studies and work and assignments, that we barely get to develop the scope to think of the bigger picture, the system that we're a part of. Our ultimate goal in life is to lead a successful life for ourselves and fulfill the need of our loved ones. Our lives go by striving for this success. So, we never stop to think about the times when these deranged conspiracy theorists were right. For example, the conspiracy theory that the government is actively trying to control your mind. Surely this is one of the more outrageous conspiracy theories based on nothing but paranoia and speculation. And the very real Project MK Ultra. Project MK Ultra was a mind control program undertaken by the CIA, starting in 1953 and ending in 1973, which is when most of the project's files were destroyed. This super secret illegal operation subjected both knowing and unknowing victims to excruciating mind-altering drugs in the hopes of controlling human behavior, weakening self-control, and forcing people such as secret Russian spies into confession. Or conspiracy theories about Adolf Hitler. Surely this man was the personification of pure evil, who, according to many, deserved to die a horrible death. Except, we no longer know if he did. After Hitler took a cyanide pill in his bunker in Berlin in 1945, most of his cremated remains were dumped in a river in East Germany. However, parts of his skull were preserved by Soviet intelligence. In 2009, though, American researchers managed to demonstrate that the skull actually belonged to a woman between the ages of 20 and 40. Even though further tests were conducted by French researchers that suggested that some of the remains could be Hitler's, none of those DNA samples were accepted because no DNA samples unquestionably belonging to Hitler actually exist. With no other evidence to go by, the world is still essentially in the dark about what happened to Hitler. He could have just as easily escaped to Antarctica in a submarine or escaped with a woman to start a new life in Chile. In such way, these theories aren't completely unfeasible. But there is a recurring pattern that emerges. A sense of distrust for power, a plausible explanation, and a sense of skepticism. An alternative train of thought where one detaches oneself from the knowledge that is accepted and analyzes it beyond what meets the eye. In today's day and age, this skill can be extremely valuable. In a time when information is more accessible than ever, we must choose whom to trust. Do we go to million-dollar mass publication organizations that care about nothing but clicks and profit, that sensationalize inaccurate news because it gives them more audience engagement? Or do we go to the internet, where almost anybody can pass off their opinion as fact, where there is an endless supply of information, alongside a notable lack of accountability and credibility? If we do go by this idea, this definition, that conspiracy theorists are essentially free thinkers, then a lot of us are conspiracy theorists. We share a lot in common with them if we value having open thoughts, open minds, and open discussions. The difference is that we are not ostracized and subjected to regular ridicule. Indeed, many take a huge social risk when they announce that they're a conspiracy theorist, or just that they're exploring alternative trains of thought. Even if you believe that the distrust for institutions that some of these conspiracy theorists are espousing is harmful, stigmatization cannot be the answer. A theory should not be dismissed purely because it is labeled as a conspiracy theory, and people should not be discredited purely because they're called conspiracy theorists. Individual ideas are surely more valuable than their categorization. Each idea and way of thinking is unique, and sometimes, as we have seen today, it may lead to the truth. I don't know if I can be called a conspiracy theorist or not. I know only that I'm an individualist, a counterculturalist, and I hope I've helped you view some things in a different light today, with an open mind and without social stigma. Because the sole phenomenon that attracted me to conspiracy theories years ago was their ostracization. Here is what I have come to discover. There is enormous intellectual potential in the world of conspiracy theories, even though this potential is often undermined by paranoia or controversy. Regardless of whether or not you buy the idea that the earth is flat, or the moon landing was a hoax, or we all live in a giant computer simulation controlled by omnipotent aliens, the amount of thought that goes into the construction and acceptance of these conspiracy theories is admirable. You could call them crazy, or you could call them thinkers that are not bound by predefined trains of thought. I say we let them venture out, create a world of their own, create their own paths, and see where it leads them. Thank you.